Getting good at Deadlock's laning stage is the easiest way to win more games, but what's changed since the last time I discussed laning? Well, we have new Healing Trooper mechanics, new Soul Orb mechanics, tankier Guardians, and a completely overhauled shop investment system. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything I've learned since playing the new patch, and I'll show you 3 examples: a winning game, a losing game, and an even one, so that you can find an example that's relatable for you. And if you think you already know everything because you figured out that you need to kill the Healing Trooper last instead of first, I'm sure there's a lot more info that I can give you in this video, so make sure to watch until the end. Now, before we get into the lane examples, I just want to take 30 seconds of your time to discuss a little bit of lane theory. So let's start with the Healing Trooper. First thing about the new Healing Trooper is that it heals you for a percentage of your missing health. So as I said earlier, you're better off killing it last usually because you want to be a little bit more hurt when you are killing it. So it's best to trade before it dies. Next, the towers got a little bit tankier, especially early. So you don't actually do a lot, like you don't really do a significant amount of tower damage early. Wave priority is the act of having more troopers pushing into them than they have into you. So if you have 3 troopers and they have 2, you have wave priority. Freezing is when you keep a lane and you essentially don't shoot the troopers at all and you just let them stay there. Now you might hear me say something like ability or cooldown advantage. That usually means that you have your cooldowns or your abilities and they don't, or that your abilities and cooldowns are better than theirs or shorter. HP advantage is an important concept to understand. It's just the fact that you have more HP than them at a given moment in your lane and you need to take advantage of that. We'll discuss positioning a little bit more in detail, and it's very important to think about your base stats when you're going to the laning stage. How much DPS does your gun do versus theirs? What is the effective range of your gun compared to theirs? And how much HP regen do you have compared to them, so that you can know which things you can abuse in lane. I'm going to start with a lane that was not close at all, and not because I wasn't playing against great players. In this lane we have me and Lona, and we're both I think I'm like top 40, he's probably top 60 or 70 in NA, against Raigeki and Wander. Wander, who's been rank 1 in North America before, and Raigeki, who I'm not sure his current rank, but consistently top 100, very good Sinclair player. And in this lane, Lona and I completely dominated, and this is an example of, first of all, how you should win your lane, but also what you should do after you've won the lane. So let's get into it. All right, so these parts will be slightly less edited because I want to give you guys my thoughts and essentially use this as a canvas to express my different thought processes about the lane, and also how you can improve at the laning stage. I'm going to pause right here, and the first thing I want to touch on before we let the lane play is that I've coached hundreds of players in Deadlock, and the number one thing that is holding people back in lane is they are not trading enough with the enemy players. And you'll see that my playstyle as a player is I like to engage a lot with the enemies, and I like to shoot them, I like to use my abilities, and the current laning system also encourages that to an extent. Why is trading so important? Well, first of all, if I'm a better player, let's say I'm an Eterna 6 player, and I'm playing against a Phantom 6 player, how am I going to prove that I'm a better player than that guy, right? I have to take trades in order to win the lane. It's really, I know it's a very basic concept, but a lot of people don't think about that enough, and they might load into the lane and think, oh man, I should play passively. You should never default to being passive in a lane unless you're a Eterna 6. And if you're a Eterna 6, maybe you won't get a ton out of watching this video, but for anyone that's not like a top player, you should never ever default to playing a lane passive, because that is essentially assuming that the enemies are going to play the lane optimally and that, you know, they're going to win because of the matchup, etc. I don't recommend that you ever do that, because you're not going to learn as much, and you're also reducing your chances of winning. You should never play not to lose. You should always try to play lane to win, and always assume that you are the best player in the lane. It's a question of confidence, not a question of arrogance. You need to have confidence in your own abilities when you're taking these trades. Otherwise, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Now, one thing you'll notice right away about the lane is that right away I try to play for wave priority, and they're kind of running me down. I actually lose 400 HP like instantly, right? We get the Healing Trooper, and what you'll notice is that the whole time I got wave priority, and so therefore now they have to back up. They have to be kind of like on the back foot, and I'm going to be able to get a decent amount of like count of damage on them, and their positioning here is definitely like out of position. They took way more damage than they should have this first wave, and even though I took 400 damage, it's overall still a winning trade for us, and that's because I secured wave priority early by shooting the trooper right away. So wave priority is king in lane. It has always been king. It will stay king, and the reason why has changed a little bit. It's not as important as it was before, but before you wanted lane priority because the faster you killed the lane trooper, the healing trooper, the better, because you didn't want them to get healed. Now you want wave priority because you want the threat of your troopers potentially doing damage to them. One mistake that I see a lot of players make is they'll tank a lot of trooper damage. So for example, in this situation, as you can see, I'm really trying to avoid the most amount of trooper damage. Like here, I just went straight up past the troopers, and when the troopers were at my tower, I wasn't afraid to back up and hide, you know, behind my tower. And here, once again, run past the troopers, just run at them and trade the whole time. So I'm not tanking the troopers. If I want to trade aggressively and I think that I've got some sort of health advantage, which we do right now, I'm just past the troopers. And as you can see here, we're just going to initiate what is called a freeze. So I mentioned a freeze in the terms earlier, but a freeze is essentially where you just keep the wave in a spot and then you run at them past the wave. So the wave is right here, and I'm going in third-person camera. I'm positioning myself as Lash on the high ground, and what I'm communicating to my Abrams, and this is a more high-level concept, but I'm communicating to my Abrams, don't shoot the wave at all. Let the wave stay here. And we're getting a little bit unlucky with the wave RNG, and unfortunately the wave has full push, so the freeze wasn't really that successful. But now we kind of have Raigeki on the Sinclair very, very low. So we've done a lot of damage to the Sinclair, and Wanderer took that time to reset, so he missed a lot of souls. So now they're very, very behind. It's time to talk about positioning a little bit. When you've got such an advantage in the laning stage and you start with a good start, don't be afraid to dive, first of all, as happens here, right? Obviously, Lash is a little bit privileged. Most characters wouldn't be able to execute a dive like this because you wouldn't be able to get on the high ground so easily. But diving is an important part of mastering kind of lane dominance. When you have a big advantage, take advantage of it, go for the dive. But I was going to talk about positioning and taking off angles, especially when you've got some sort of lead ahead, so that you can keep just getting damage into them the whole time. For example, in this lane, a great off angle, if you're already winning the lane, is just taking what's called, we call this a church angle very often. You just sit here and you can shoot them, and even if they're at their shop, you have a clear sideline on them. Now, I also want to make clear that there's kind of like an ebb and flow state to the lanes. For example, right now, yes, Raigeki has 2 deaths, the Sinclair has 2 deaths, and we have some sort of advantage. But from a health perspective right now, we're down on health. So we need to be a little bit careful about how we execute it. We're actually not trying to shove the wave into them because we don't want to give them free healing. So once again, we're kind of just freezing and prioritizing taking good trades into them rather than just perma-shoving the wave in this situation. And this is something that's different in the new patch. And the main reason why it's different is because before, freezing wasn't that effective because people could shoot the troopers and they would still get the souls. But now they have to walk up to the souls to get them, right? So here's an example of a soul that they'll never get. This is a soul that they'll just never get. And the soul gap between both of us, even though Wanderer has 0 deaths, he's down a ton of souls. And part of that is due to missing so many souls from the amount of wave manipulation that we've done. Now, a lot of this is very difficult to execute without a duo. So if you don't have a duo, don't try to focus too much on the wave manipulation aspect. Try to focus on taking good trades, being active constantly, taking the off angles when you're ahead. And, like I said, playing with confidence to an extent. Now here, I have ult advantage. One thing that I do want to mention, now of course this does look like a stomp because it was, but one thing that a lot of people don't take advantage of is when they're winning the lane and they get ult advantage, meaning they get ult before their enemies, they don't use it right away. But as you can see, Abrams and I, we got ult before Warden and Sinclair, and so we make sure to both use our ults, and I believe we get both kills here. Yeah, we killed the Warden as well. So we get both kills out of using our ults. Now, of course, you may not have the same level of success. This is kind of the lane where everything goes well. So this is why I wanted to show the example. Now, at this point, the lane should in theory be over. All that's left is to not throw. So I buy healing right just to make sure that I don't give them an easy kill. I believe Lonosh is going to heal because he's on Abrams. He's got 12 health regen, so he doesn't even need healing right. But you really don't want to give them free kills. At this point, we're up so many souls that as long as we don't throw, we should, come out favorably on top of the lane. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aggressive. As you can see, I'm still trying to be aggressive, but I will also, respect their power spike. So here on the Sinclair, he's very strong. He's bolting me. I'm losing all my health. Now at this point, I do believe that I'm going to reset here because I really do not want to give them a free kill to come back into the lane. So I'm like, hey, I tell my Abrams, hey, I'm going back to base. Don't do anything crazy. We're hard winning the lane right now. We don't need to take their tower right away. And this is something like taking tower early is a lot harder now because the tower actually has some, meaningful health. Something to keep in mind is you don't have to take the tower right away. You just want to maintain your soul lead. And a similar thing is if you're losing, you shouldn't be concerned about losing your tower too much. You should be concerning about staying even as souls as much as possible. Souls tend to matter a lot more than towers. The only thing that the tower really does is it gives you a shop. Now the shop is actually very nice and quite important, but you shouldn't be too worried about it. Now there's a little bit more example of aggression here where, I'm just being aggressive. Warden kind of messes up a little bit, but I'm really hurt, so they're just trying to get it. Anytime you're hurt, by the way, don't forget about the healing trooper. See, it just healed me for like 170 there. So as you can see, I'm not really trying to super overextend. I want to keep up the pressure, but I don't want to give them an easy kill. Now, I do see that they're kind of ripe for the picking here. So once again, I'm going to dive. Don't forget you can parry while air dashing. That's the little technique that I use there is I was in the air, I did a double jump, and then I parried while moving in the air. And that's a great technique that you can use in order to execute a quick dive without having to stop at the tower. Now, at this point, as you guys can imagine, the lane is basically fully over, right? Like the tower is extremely hurt. Sinclair's coming back. As you'll see, I'm really concerned about giving Sinclair a free kill, so I'll back up. Honestly, he might have killed me there. There's a decent chance that he killed me. I'm being pretty greedy by even staying around, but we really want this tower gone. And so, you know, I come in, get the flog, but this is not really what I would recommend. And I even go in for the ground strike because I wanted the healing trooper, but this is not necessarily something that I would recommend doing, but keep in mind the other points that I talked about. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is what do you do after you win the lane this hard? And we're just going to watch kind of like the next minute sped up. I'm going to speed it up to 2x so we can see. You'll probably see that I'm just not gonna let him have a game. All right, so anytime that we see this Warden, we're gonna run at him. We're gonna make his life miserable. we're like, we see Warden farming here. We're like, yep, that's not allowed. We're running at him. We're not letting him take a single camp. And the Sinclair is kind of doing the right thing where he's trying to rotate and make things happen, but he's just too weak because he lost lane too hard. So it's not really happening. We're gonna steal their resources, secure our own resources. As you can see, I'm playing for my own game, securing my game. Ganking here would also be a great play. There's multiple options, but I don't really need to gank because mid lane has already been taken. And so I just focus on kind of making Warden's life, you know, miserable, not letting him come back into the game, and stealing all of their resources. And that should be your focus if you win lane as well, especially if most of your teammates have won lane already. I wouldn't recommend making these shenanigan plays around the Walker too much. There's really very little reward to making these plays around the Walker nowadays. I would say that this is slightly not optimal. Instead, I should probably be active mid, and that's kind of what I do. Like I see the buff, and then I probably head to the mid lane quickly. Actually, I go back to this lane. I think that the mistake that I made is I wasn't active enough on the map. I definitely could have went to the other lane at least once. So that's the criticism I would have for myself there. Now, let's get into an example of a losing lane. Now, in this example, me and Abrams are against Mirage. I'm on Shiv, and we're on Abrams, and we're against Mirage Vindicta. Now, this is quite a bad matchup for us, as Vindicta is in the sky. Neither me or Abrams can interact with her, and Tornado dodges both, you know, the dash and the charge from Shiv and Abrams. So we've got two kind of close quarters shotgun characters against two poke heroes that have ways to dodge most of our, you know, burst damage. So not a great matchup for us, and we do lose the lane. So we're going to watch this lane from the perspective of what I could have done better to perhaps mitigate this loss, because I definitely did not play perfectly, and what you should do once the lane is completely lost, and how you can adjust, you know, past that and try to make it, you know, not matter as much as it can sometimes. But right away, as you can see, they grab the high ground, which is a great play by them. They realize, and this is something that I talked about at the beginning of the video as far as concepts, but it's the effective range of your weapons. So one thing that I want to mention is you'll notice Abrams and I are constantly playing around corners, constantly not playing out in the open. Like I go on the bridge, but for a very limited period of time, I kind of miss all my abilities. A bit of a skill issue there, but I'm going to be playing around geometry all the time, and so will Abrams try to, and they're going to be trying to play out in the open and take advantage of their weapons. And it's really, really important to think about your hero's effective range versus their hero's effective range. Here, Abrams does get parried, and these things will happen, right? You're going to get parried wave one. Sometimes it's going to happen. You go for a light melee, they go for a react parry. It's not great. Now, a little bit of Shiv movement to get back to cover. At this point, I'm already like, okay, this is a terrible matchup, and the lane has started poorly. So my first item is, hey, I need some sort of item that will allow me to kind of heal. Now, I wasn't hitting a lot of my shots, so I would say if you're not consistent with restorative shot, buy extra regen. Honestly, I probably should have bought extra regen here because I kind of missed the next few restorative shots, so I don't think it ends up being like really all that worth it. And as you can see, I'm just shooting just around the corner, right? Never like fully poking out. And here, once again, I'm not really looking to push this lane forward. So I know I said lane priority is key, but it's very difficult for us to kind of push this lane forward because we can't really fight these heroes. I'm still trying to fight them, which is a bit of a mistake. Mirage makes a slight overextension. We're trying to see if we can do like execute a freeze on him, which unfortunately, you know, we're not really able to deny any meaningful amount of souls for him. We do get a ton of damage, and so we have this chance where, like I said, there's always kind of like the ebb and flow in lane. So yeah, they got the early kill, but we're getting a lot of damage in exchange. So now both Vindicta and Mirage are really hurt. So we're going to try to have the pressure. And I think this is probably where we could have done something potentially. Now they bought healing right on Mirage, which is a great play. But I just want to highlight here that even if you lose the early engagements, doesn't mean you have to play passive for the rest of the lane, right? There's always going to be like kind of options and times where you can try to recover into the lane a little bit more. Now we got a lot of damage on the Mirage in this interaction once again, but the problem with our heroes really is just it's very difficult to punish the Mirage and Vindicta because we have to be able to dive in order to get them. And I think that we will attempt to dive, but you know they know very well that our heroes can't really get on high ground very easily, and that we're both shotgun heroes, and so they're playing, you know, very well positioning wise to try to kind of dodge it, and we're just trying our best to make sure that they don't really have respite. As you can see, I'm kind of going in for the trade here. Mirage is actually going in super aggressive, and I'm doing a lot of damage, but Abrams just can't really provide a lot of support in this situation because he has no meaningful poke, so we're kind of shafted on the matchup side of things here. Now, don't forget to buy. I see so many people that I coach that don't buy. Now there, I spent a lot of time without buying, and the reason why I spent a lot of time without buying is because I was saving up for a 1600, and also I wanted to keep up the pressure. So now I'm saving up for Healbane, and they're so 1 HP that I really don't want to go back and buy, but I kind of have to. So I don't want to abandon my Abrams, who's super aggressive. I think I communicate, but don't be afraid to abandon your teammate for 1 second and tell him, hey, I'm going to buy. And I buy Healbane here, and the idea with Healbane is basically, hey, if I get like a good kind of like all in on them, first of all, I can reduce the amount of healing they're going to get from the healing trooper, and second of all, if I just get 1 kill, then we can kind of turn it because they might overextend on me thinking they can trade me out, but I'll get the instant heal from Healbane from 275. And so in my head, it was a good idea. Now looking back at it, honestly, I don't know if I should have gone Healbane. I think if I went like extra charge, extra spirit, I may have able to have enough damage to kind of kill them with just a couple knives, but Healbane seemed like a good idea at the time, so I think that's definitely a criticism that I could give myself. To kind of credit them, well, they have the soul advantage on the Vindicta, and so what they're doing is they're waiting for the Vindicta's power spike, which is about to happen, and she's saving all her points, right? So she's going to have a huge power spike when she gets her ult. We kind of know like, hey, the moment Vindicta gets her ult, it's going to become really, really, really difficult for us. And the main advice that I can give when it comes to that is just understand, you know, when characters spike really hard in lane. For example, Vindicta, especially if she keeps her points, you can look if they spent points, by the way. So I was able to look, okay, has she spent any points on Crow? She hasn't. Okay, well, I'm probably just gonna die. And at this point, I'm 1 Vindicta snipe away from death at any point, and Abrams can also die, and so this is kind of feeling really, really bad. And from here on out, it's essentially you're just gonna see the bleeding. Now, don't be afraid to reset. I see this so many times, but if you clear the wave and you reset, you're not gonna miss anything. And since I know I'm too hurt, Vindicta can one-shot me with snipe, I just go for the reset. Don't take any risks. I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit because at this point we kind of have lost lane. I think that we just take kind of like one more fight, and the fight doesn't work out. Like, I think my Abrams gets caught out, and then I think I get caught out, or my Abrams get caught out. I can't remember. Abrams got kind of caught out. We're trying to be a little bit on the aggressive here, but they can just like kite us forever. I look to go for a dash. My Abrams goes in as well, and I think we probably both end up dying soon enough just because it's so hard to fight these heroes. I get hit by a snipe. I'm just dead. This is kind of our mistake. You know, when there's a matchup like this, if you haven't won the lane early in a bad matchup, I know I said to play confidently, all that stuff. I mean it. You should always start the lane by thinking, hey, let's play confidently. But at a certain point in the game, if your matchup is bad enough and you've already kind of lost the early opening, it can be best to just be like, hey, we're not going to win this lane, so let's just try to either stall it out or let's try to have impact somewhere else. For example, an option that I would have had would be, hey, I'm just gonna push a wave and then go disrupt the mid lane and go for some movement speed items so that I can be active around the map. So maybe an early enduring speed, something like that to allow me to roam a little bit more would have been an option. Or Sprint Boots Healing Right. Sprint Boots Healing Right is one of the best roaming combos. But here kind of the mistake I make is I keep trying to pressure this lane. And this is really, like, looking back at it, this is a little bit silly. Because it's just impossible to pressure these guys for us at this point, especially since if they're spiked, Vindicta is almost 2,000 souls ahead of us. It's a bad matchup, and so I think I'm kind of just letting my ego, you know, get the better of me here, and I'm just kind of thinking, hey, maybe I can turn this around. But I think I should have gone mid. If you look at the mid laners, like, they're super hurt. We would have lost our tower, sure, but I would have created a disruption on the map, and I would have also gotten out of a situation that was bad for me. Now, we actually do end up executing a dive on the Mirage and killing him, which is kind of a miracle in this matchup, but it's all going to turn to disaster pretty quickly as Vindicta, first of all, kills my Abrams, and then I try to kill her, and she's literally, I think I actually do end up getting her, so we do get the double kills, but it ends up not really being worth it as the Mirage stays, and the decision was just not really a super winning decision for me. Now, I'm going to move forward a little bit. In this situation, what I would recommend you do is really just go disrupt another lane. I think me coming back to this lane, especially after they got that kill again, this is another mistake from me. We're really trying to, you know, we're really overstaying our welcome at this point, and both Abrams and I are a little bit feeding, I think. You know, either we're tilted, like Abrams is dead again. I think I go die again soon. And this is definitely like, okay, I think Mirage like tries to dive me and I'm like, okay, this can't be allowed. I try to fight him. And then I think I'm going to end up like dying, like basically at my walker, if I remember. Oh, actually, I'm fast forwarding a little bit. I think I try to go back in. My Abrams tries to go back in and we both end up dying again. Abrams is dead again. And now we're down like a million souls on them. And so don't do what I did. If you notice the lane is bad, just go disrupt another lane, try to create imbalances on the map. And if you lose a lane, buy movement speed, okay? I cannot reiterate this enough. If you're on a hero that wants to buy Fleetfoot at any point of the game, if you lose the lane, just buy Fleetfoot, Enduring Speed. It allows you to outmaneuver people on the map. It allows you to make rotations. It allows you to stay active. You can do boxes. You can dodge ganks because realistically, you probably can't fight most people because you're too far behind. But movement is very, very important when you're behind. Main takeaways from the losing lane is if you're in a losing matchup and you lose the early engagements, don't try to force it too hard. Once the lane has been quote unquote lost, you're better off just trying to disrupt other lanes and making things happen, especially if you've got other lanes that are winning. And don't stay in a losing lane for forever, like I'm doing right now, where I'm just fighting this Mirage with no hope of ever winning this matchup. Definitely not what you want to do. Or if you do that, you want to be very, very passive and cautious. Now let's go to our last example, which is going to be a more even lane with a little bit of back and forth to talk about some of the nuances there. Okay, so just to show you the stats, I picked this lane in which Abrams and I went completely even with Viscus and Mirage. So the souls are completely even. They have 3 kills, we have 1 kill, but the soul count is still even. And that's really the main thing that matters. And you can see both towers died at around the same time. So I just want to reiterate the fact that at the end of the day, the laning stage is not about kills. It is kind of about towers, but not really in matchmaking games, I would say. I would say in matchmaking games, your main concern out of the laning stage should be your soul count, okay? If you have more souls than the enemies, you'll be fine in a lot of scenarios. So just keep that in mind. So as this is a third example, I'm going to assume by this point, you guys are starting to kind of get the hang of the things that I'm focusing on. So let's start with a little thought exercise as we watch the lane. We've got Lash and Abrams versus Viscus and Mirage. So you kind of always need to think about the first thing is what is the effective range of our weapons, right? And so if I look at my base stats, Lash has 49 base DPS, Mirage has 41 base DPS, Viscus has 49 base DPS. Viscus's hitbox is very big though, and he's got a big head. So if I'm looking, I'm thinking, hey, my gun is actually kind of better than both of their guns by default. In fact, Mirage's gun is quite bad at the beginning, and he gets most of his damage from either Fire Scarabs or Jin's Marks, depending on which one he starts. And it's important to identify which one he starts so you can take advantage of it. So here I see, hey, he started Jin's Mark. This means I can trade with him pretty much whenever I want because Jin's Mark level 1 does really no damage. And also I have Flog, which means I want to take a little bit of damage before I use Flog on them so that I can, you know, take a positive trade, meaning I'm going to do some damage with the Flog and I'm also going to heal a little bit, right? So in order to heal, I need to not be full HP. So I try to trade, but I don't go too crazy. I try to interact a little bit, but hey, I notice, hey, my Abrams can't really interact super early in this lane. That's something to think about is, hey, for me, the gun matchup is actually feeling pretty good in this lane. But for my Abrams, it's not really looking so good. Both of these heroes can kind of outrange him. Viscus has Cube and Mirage has Tornado, both of which can counter my Abrams charge. So it's not really a great lane for him, and it's important to consider your lane partner and adapt to the lane partner's level of aggression, whether it's because their hero can't be aggressive or whether it's because they're not being aggressive as players. Right? You can't fully ignore your lane partner. It is a team game after all. One concept I want to touch on that I haven't touched on yet is playing in accordance with your items. So I have Headshot Booster. That means that every time my item's off cooldown, I'm going to try to proc it. Okay, procking means activating it, using it. Now, you could argue that I actually took too long to activate Headshot Booster in that situation. And it's very, very important if you buy a specific item to play in a way that rewards you for buying that item. So if you buy extra regen and you're constantly on full health, that's a very, very bad play. Oh, sorry about that. There was a little crash. My deadlock crashed twice, and so I kind of lost my train of thought, so I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but we're getting back into it. I'm constantly kind of trading. As you can see, when they're going on your lane partner, don't just sit back and watch what happens to him. You want to trade back. Now, the whole time they're fighting my Abrams, I'm fighting back. I just had a sneeze. Not sure if my editor put it in, but regardless, you know, they're fighting my Abrams the whole time. I'm fighting back, making sure that, you know, he's not just being left alone. And when they're fighting your teammate, a lot of the time they might be distracted. So we got a great start to this lane. I'm actually not sure how we end up messing this one up. I mean, this one looks pretty close. I don't remember this one exactly, so it'll be a good reminder. Now they go back, they try to go on the aggressive on the Abrams, but this overall should be a winning matchup for us at this point, now that we've gotten the kind of like early kill and we have a slight soul lead. One thing I will say though, is that soul leads from 1 kill really are not so drastic anymore, especially with the soul changes, because they still get 100% of the soul value when one teammate is still alive. So as you can see, 1 kill doesn't actually swing the balance that much. I didn't even realize when I was in the game that we're still down on souls effectively, or we're about even though we have a kill. We were 1 and 0, but if you look at the souls, it's basically even. We're up maybe 100, 200 souls total, but it's really nothing crazy. So something to think about is just getting 1 kill is not nearly as effective as, for example, freezing a wave and denying the enemy team a wave. If you make it so they can miss a wave, that's more effective than getting a kill in the current meta, simply because if one person is still alive, they get the full value of the souls because of the soul splitting changes. Now, I could argue a small mistake that I'm making here is I'm at 1800 souls and I'm not buying. Now, to be fair, I am trying to kind of poke them and proc my headshot booster, but I probably should have bought just a little bit earlier, and then I go for the buy. The last thing I want to touch on in today's video is the investment categories, okay? So a lot of people are saying, hey, you should rush the 4.8k investment categories and, you know, decide which one you want to rush on your hero. And that is true to an extent, but you don't want to, you know, okay, we're going to ignore that ground strike. A bit of a miss execution. I would have killed Mirage probably there if I didn't do that with ground strike, but ignoring that was a miss execution. That explained why this lane went a little bit more back and forth. But what I want to talk about with the investment categories is it's important to go for an early 4.8k in one category, but you don't want to grief your lane by going for it. So as you can see, I'm still going headshot booster early to try to make my lane strong and fight. And if I'm really hurt, I'll still go healing right. I'll still go these other items before my 4.8k spike. I'm not going to be like, hey, I have to hit 4.8k as fast as possible, no matter what. You still kind of want to itemize for the lane a little bit. Now, you probably don't want to spend too much money on itemizing for the lane, and you want to prioritize your spike as much as possible, but it's still important to itemize for the lane. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. At this point, the lane is a little bit stalemated in the sense that now that they have Viscous Cube and Mirage Tornado, and they both have their ultimates, we're kind of at a situation where it's very, very difficult for us to progress this lane, because if we try to go in, they have 2 escapes, being Cube and Tornado and Viscous ult, right? Like if we go on Viscous and he pops his ult, we're not going to kill him. So there's a lot of things that are making it extremely difficult for us to have an impact on this lane. And so we're just going to play for the buffs, right? We realize, hey, we're going for the buffs. Now they're going on my Abrams on the left buff. I noticed that. Now, one play that I could have made here is, considering they're going for my Abrams on the left buff, I could have decided to go to the right lane for my team, which was already winning. There's a Dynamo that's hurt and a Pocket that's got that's kind of hurt. And so I could have ganked that lane, and I could have actually had a huge amount of impact there. Instead, what I end up doing is I take the wave mid alone, which might be slightly inefficient. So looking back on this, I actually think I probably should have ganked, and it would have been a good idea. And ganking is much less punished now with the new kind of soul mechanics. So here, I forced the Viscous ult. As you can see, I didn't go for my Lash ult there because I knew Viscous still had ult and Mirage likely still had Tornado, so I didn't feel comfortable kind of going for it. But now that they've used some of the resources, we might have a slight opening, which I think is why I stick around. I'm like, hey, you know, I might be able to kind of go on one of these guys, and I go for a flog, I go for a trade. And I think at some point I should basically realize, hey, I'm not really able to progress this lane, and I should gank. Like right there would have been another opportunity to gank, in my opinion. We're not really making any progress, so I should just be going to this Dynamo Pocket lane and just killing this guy. And I should realize that much sooner. So that would be the main criticism I have of myself in this lane, and the lesson that I want to pass on to you guys as well. I fast forwarded a bunch. Let me rewind a little bit. I think I skipped probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I want to make a point, which is if you don't take action and you're stuck in a stalemate lane, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either one of your other lanes lost and somebody's going to gank you, or one of your other lanes won and someone's going to gank you. Either way, something's going to happen in your lane. You're not going to be in control of it. So you definitely want to take the initiative rather than just waiting for something to happen and to get ganked. So that's the main, you know, mistake that I think I made, is I didn't take the initiative. I didn't make anything happen on the map. I just kind of waited until I got ganked, and then Bebop came mid. I got ganked, and even though, you know, I hit the Lash ult on the Bebop, I don't even think we kill him. And then we're kind of stuck on a 2v3 in the mid lane with, you know, not really a ton happening in exchange. So that's entirely my fault. And the fact that this lane was a stalemate, looking back in the game, I felt like I was like, man, what the hell is my team doing? There's a Bebop here. Like, I feel like I played this lane pretty well, and I was really frustrated that we kind of weren't able to win that lane, especially with the first kill that we got. But looking back on it, it's almost entirely my fault, because I was the one that was in control. I was the one in the driver's seat, and I was the one that could have made something happen on the map in other lanes earlier, because both my side lanes were winning. I could have went to either of them, and I could have accelerated their winning, and then they could have ganked my lane in exchange, right? If I go to Vindicta's lane, I win her lane, and then I ask her to come mid, she probably would, because that's what her hero wants to do. So there's always self-reflection that's possible in the laning stage and in any stage of of the game. Now, I think there's a lot of things that can be taken away from today's video, and I actually really love the recording of it because I was going into each individual game, not even really remembering exactly what had happened and the specific facts, but I think that doing it that way, I was able to get a lot of little nuggets of wisdom in there for you guys of things that I've learned that I wouldn't have thought to make a video about per se. And I don't mean for this to be like, you know, a super exhaustive laning guide, because we don't know what's going to happen to laning again. And to be honest, it's not really worth the effort to make a super high quality laning guide because it could be changed again in 2 weeks or in a month or so. You know, it kind of feels like putting something like this out there that's a little bit less scripted, that's just showing 3 different games, one game where I stomped, one game where we got stopped, and one game where it was pretty back and forth even, and showing the things that I did well, the things that I could have done a lot better, and the things that, you know, I think are important to highlight. Now, my main takeaways for me are your default mindset should be to take trades and play aggressively. You should play with confidence, always assume you are the best player in the lane. Now, this might sound egotistical, but you really, when you're playing games, you have to be confident, and it shows in your gameplay. When I'm coaching someone that's not confident, I can tell right away. Understand the lane has an ebb and flow, and you have to capitalize on the advantages when you have them and not give back free kills when you don't have them. So if you go back to the first example, the winning lane, I made sure not to give them back free kills, right? I would play a little bit more passive if I wasn't healthy or something like that. Kill the healing trooper last if you can help it. Now, sometimes you might be really hurt and you need to kill it quickly. In those cases, obviously it's fine, but as a general rule of thumb, you want to kill it last because it heals for % health missing. Avoid trooper damage, position yourself past the troopers if you want to trade aggressively without changing the wave state. So let's say you don't want to push the wave, but you want to trade with the enemies, use the high ground, use the off angles, don't put yourself in the middle of the wave because the troopers will shoot you, you'll take a bunch of damage, and you'll mess up the wave because if the troopers shoot you, they're not shooting your own troopers, which means that the wave will push into them. And lastly, itemize for the lane a little bit, whether it's a healing right, a headshot booster, you know, don't feel like you have to rush the 4.8k fully. It's okay to still get 1 or 2 items before you rush that 4.8k investment. Now, you do still want to get it pretty early, so don't delay it too much, but it's okay to buy just a little bit for the lane for sure. If you guys enjoy educational content and videos like these, I would suggest that you check out my Deathslam Academy. Link will be in the description. We have 3 weekly courses, and recently Poshipop has joined us and is also going to be teaching courses there. So we have live classes, you have access to some VOD reviews that are, you know, stocked in there. Essentially what I had on my YouTube membership previously, but I wanted to take it off platform in order to not spam people's feeds with members only videos. So if that interests you, link is in the description below. I think it's a lot of content, and if you're not happy with it, well, we'll give you your money back. So if you're not happy with it during the first month, you can always message me directly and I'll be more than happy to refund you. So it's not a free trial because I don't want you to feel like, hey, if you don't cancel this, you're just going to get billed forever. We do still charge you, but if you're not happy, we will refund you. So trying to do business the right way and not be predatory. Thank you guys so much for the support, and thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.